Mental Health Warriors presents a Mental Health Microsode.
You are, Christopher Bryan, the first return guest on the Mental Health Warriors podcast, so I believe that should feel like a life-changing accolade for you.
Wow,
how does it feel?
That is an honor. I am definitely going to add that immediately to my LinkedIn as a top achievement.
Yeah, that's right on, right on. So when you were on last time, it was just a phenomenal episode, and it's just really powerful, and you were really open about telling your story. And then we ended up, not really as a result of that, but just because we know each other, we ended up having a coaching call. Mm-hmm. And so maybe tell the guests sort of maybe some of the things that came out of that coaching call and how that led up to what we're doing today.
So with the coaching call with Jason, one of his gifts is just asking really powerful questions to engage in the conversation of what you want in life and helping to kind of fine tune and achieve those things. So one of the dramatic things that I knew for myself that I wanted to, as I continued to work on, was I wanted to find a way to share my story with more people. Because I know that people, if I'm struggling, there are other people out there struggling. And that there are other people who, like me, have grown up facing very similar circumstances. And even if they didn't face similar circumstances, they might be struggling with something else that they could find, that truth and relate to. And I'd been, writing consistently for quite a while. I subscribed to this page called 750words.com, where I wake up every day and I just purge out 750 words, just whatever I'm thinking. So Jason, during the course of that conversation, really kind of encouraged me to start publishing some of the things that I'm writing and just kind of be more open and be out there and allow myself to be open to the conversation with others. So that's kind of what the result of this was. It was my first time actually publicly publishing something on, my Facebook page and engaging in my small little world that I exist in here in that social media platform, of just being open and honest and opening up the dialogue to what's happened in my life and then allowing other people to kind of, engage in that conversation, if you will.
I love it, man. So what was it like for you to do that? Did you find it scary in any way? Or I guess, what was it like thinking about doing it versus what was the feeling afterwards and what was the result of doing it?
Immediately, as most things are, my initial instinct was just sheer confidence and so strong and powerful, and that I was going to do this, and feeling so, almost on a 10 after the coaching call. But of course, then reality hits, and, a couple of days goes by, and you get sick, and life happens, and then suddenly you have to find that energy again, and go back to the truths that you and I had discussed. So when I re-listened to it and I reinvested into the notes of, the things that we had discussed, I really felt a connection and to the words that I wanted to speak. So when I wrote the initial draft of it, I let it sit for about 2 days, and then I came back to it and decided that I was just going to publish it as is, that the beauty of the truth, unedited, unscripted, was where the power of the conversation could be held. And so hitting publish was frightening, I'll admit. I kind of hovered over that little link to hit officially post for a couple days. A couple hours. But when I finally hit it, I closed my computer and walked away, and then, went and spent some time with my son and my wife, and came back later that evening, and just an outpouring of just messages from people who felt connected to what I had to say, who wanted to further engage in the conversation, and just a validation, not in myself, but just in that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling, and there are a lot of people that are just looking for someone to stand up and speak the truth of that there is a better way, and that there is a way to live this grand thing called life that's not necessarily attached to prescription drugs or to religion or to all these other things. And while all those things are great tools in and of themselves, they're not the only way. And it was beautiful to see, and it was beautiful to kind of have that conversation with people that I, had been, quote unquote, Facebook friends with for, years, but had never actually had an honest conversation with.
That is fantastic. So I think that's a beautiful segue. And without further ado, since you're hearing all that, why don't you read the piece that you shared?
Perfect. Learning to live again for the first time. It's been over a year since we found out that Wyatt was conceived. I remember that moment so clearly. Ruby standing in the doorway without having taken a pregnancy test, just knowing that a change had come over her body. I laughed. It couldn't possibly be right. I had just started a new job and still had so many personal obstacles to overcome before I could be a dad. I picked up a generic pregnancy test, so assured it would be negative. The next morning, when it ran positive, something in me shifted. I still didn't want it to be true. I went that afternoon, I picked up 2 more, the more expensive kind. Same result. We were without insurance because of the change in job, so we got the first appointment we could at the St. Thomas Clinic. Congratulations, you're gonna be a dad. We'd soon find out that the moment Ruby knew she was pregnant was pretty much the moment it had happened. But when we tested and confirmed, the pregnancy was less than 10 days inside her. Life was being created, and I had to change. Some people who knew me at the time knew bits and pieces of my story. Abused as a kid, an eating disorder as a teenager, a crisis of faith as an adult, a kind but lost soul. Unfortunately, when I rejected faith, I rejected all hope. I had lost all my spirituality. I had closed off my soul, and my mind and body suffered because of it. Here's the truth. The day Ruby looked at me and told me she was pregnant, this is what my life looked like. I had been drinking myself to sleep each night and would start my day off with whiskey in my coffee. I was on a cocktail of prescription drugs to keep my anxiety and depression in check that mostly left me feeling numb with occasional bouts of anger and violence I wanted to inflict on myself or people whom I felt had wronged me. I couldn't tell you what joy was or what it meant to me. I had no intention of purpose to my life other than to get through till the next sunrise that I would often just sleep right through. I was not going to be a good father. And though the last 15 years I've rejected all tenets of Christianity and its hurtful religion, one thought, one teaching kept popping in my head as I stared at the 750 words I was willing myself to write each day as I sought change and salvation from mediocrity. The crowd had approached the teacher and asked him, "What is the greatest commandment?" The teacher replied, "Why, to love your Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. And the second is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. All the teachings and the laws are built on this foundation." How could I love my neighbor as myself when I had no love for me, no compassion for me, when I showed so little kindness to my... How could I teach my child to love if I didn't know how to love me? But the idea of a Lord, your God, kept giving me pause. I had rejected a faith that was centered on an omniscient being who ruled from the heavens, whose rules and teachings had been the foundation of my own self-loathing. Yet something about that truth haunted me, and haunted my thoughts for the first couple of weeks of learning my wife was with child. I woke up daily and rejected the whiskey and wrestled with the words. And then one day I wrote those words down again and felt a strong connection to them. A connection to the Lord, your God, that resides in us, that resides in me. I rewrote the passage, integrating the Dharma I had been studying. Love yourself, the light that shines in you, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. And the second is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Heart, soul, mind. My cosmic balance had been out of sync, and I had been suffering because of it. This is how I began to learn to live in holism. This is how I learned to live again for the first time.
Wow. That is awesome. What did it feel like to read that?
I don't know. It got me a little choked up, actually reading it out loud for the first time. It felt, I felt a connection to myself at that time when it happened. One of the things that has been amazing about having a son for me was for the first time has not been linear. I used to always live my life to where every day, whatever choices I made that day only affected that day. And I was always rejecting my past and running from it and had no concern for the future. And as I moved into this space of living a more holistic, connected life, I feel both connected and integrated to my past and also the power of my future, and how all three are kind of working and sync together with each other. So reading it out loud felt very powerfully for that reason.
And so that would have been, I mean, that moment. God, how old is Wyatt now? I mean, not that...
Wyatt's almost 5 months. So this would be almost, about 13 months ago.
Isn't it? I mean, looking back, that's not that long ago, man. Isn't it unbelievable how much people can change in a relatively short period of time? It's a different life you're living.
It really is a completely different life that I'm living. And, and it's hard work. That's the one thing that I tell people all the time is it's not a quick fix. But there's nothing in life that's worth doing that doesn't come with some sort of struggle. And once I kind of learned to embrace the struggle and fully connect to it and embrace this idea of just improve 1% every day, that I really started seeing dramatic changes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to be a humble witness to the changes that you are making, because you're an inspiration, brother. So, yeah, it's just awesome. I'm so glad you're willing to come on and do this. And who knows, maybe you'll be the first 3-time guest. If you keep it up. Geez, man.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And, we'll definitely be in touch soon for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Man. Take care.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for more mental health microsodes.